scholars and talk about taking lecture notes. This lesson is best taken right after you've done Civics Lesson 1. In that lesson, I encourage you to watch the lecture and take notes as you go. Often the best way to learn how to do something is to just give it a shot and see how you do. And so if you haven't done Civics Lesson 1 yet, jump out and do that and then come back. Now, the good news is you guys have been taking reading notes on newspaper articles for every day for 2 weeks in a row now. And many of the skills are transferable. Many of the things that I said about taking article notes apply also to taking lecture notes. There are some different wrinkles, hence the lesson. Now, first of all, I wanted to remind you that taking lecture notes is an important learning skill, not just here in high school, but also in college if you're going to college, and even if you're not going to college, in many workplaces. I have worked in the private sector outside of education a few different times in my life, and in every instance I found that taking notes was helpful for recording customers' needs so I could follow up on them, vendor or partner needs, keeping track of meetings and who's responsible for what and what the timelines are. So note-taking is a skill that will hold you in good stead no matter what you choose to do with your life. It's also important for active citizenship, right? If you go to a candidate forum and you're listening to different candidates for public office talk about what they want to do or what their backgrounds are, sometimes you take notes on that because you might have an opportunity to pose a relevant question or ask them something, put them on the spot about something that interests or disturbs you. Now, as with the reading notes, your lecture notes are going to be handwritten. Now, there are some exceptions for IEP or 504 students. You know if those exceptions apply to you. If you're not an IEP or 504 student, then you are taking, and some IEP and 504 students are taking handwritten lecture notes. But the standard expectation in this course is you're taking handwritten notes. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why? So I thought I would remind you why, this time with an awesome diagram. It's the answer to why is science. Several studies have shown that people learn more when they handwrite their notes, and they learn less when they type their notes. Now, there have been a lot of studies that have shown this, and when you have lots of studies that indicate the same results, we call that replication, and replicated findings are the strongest findings in science. This diagram comes from a Princeton University study comparing the performance on final exams of college students of people who typed their notes versus people who handwrote their notes. Now, this is what you call a bell curve. It's a distribution of performance, right? So this is the performance of the people who typed their notes on the test. Some low performers, this is where most of the kids are, right at the high point in the bell curve, and they're in the lower performance band. And look how few of the high performers typed their notes. Conversely, look at the bell curve, the distribution of performance from poor to average to extraordinary among the people who handwrote their notes. Most of the people here in the middle of the bell curve are on the higher performance end of the spectrum, and all of the super high performance are people who were handwriting their notes like a boss. And this is why I want you to have that skill, because I want all of you up here. Now, why do note typers underperform? Tends to be because they sort of disconnect their brain and they just type, right? They type and copy down the slide text. They type and word for word everything the teacher is saying, and they're so focused on the actual typing that they're not really listening or thinking or processing the information. And the other thing that's deadly is, since they're on a computer anyway, they're more likely to multitask, to toggle over to social media or to other distractions. So why do note takers dominate academically? Answer: because they tend to be more focused. They're actively listening, and part of the reason they're actively listening is because they're doing the difficult task of processing information from the slides, from what the teacher is saying, and getting it down on paper as fast as they can write it. And they have to make some decisions. They can't write down literally every word that tumbles out of the teacher's mouth. So they're more strategic, and they're using abbreviations and symbols. And that processing that your brain is doing is helping you learn in real time, and it's helping you remember later. All right, now we know taking notes by